guys! So today I am 1 week postpartum and thought I would do a video about it because there's some things that I've experienced this past week that I haven't, either I haven't heard in postpartum videos that I've watched, or I just don't remember and I didn't make a point to remember it. But I think it'll be helpful for other people to hear my experience, hopefully, just because I think these are kind of symptoms that most women are going to deal with after they have their baby. And I think maybe it's because these are things that people don't like to talk about as much because they're not negative, but they're just, they're the feelings that maybe people don't want to admit to as much, or I don't know, but it's not the stuff that I generally hear people talk about. So, long introduction over. Yeah, so I had the baby a week ago today. I had her on October 20th. It was a girl, if you hadn't caught on to that yet. So October 20th, it was a Tuesday. And today is Tuesday. Got a little calendar thingy down here to try to keep my brain straight. Today is Tuesday the 27th. So basically, so from my birth experience, I ended up in hospital with a forceps assisted delivery, and I had to have a spinal because it was the quickest way to give me anesthesia because they needed to get the baby out quickly. Plus, I had to be ready to have a C-section if they couldn't get her out with the forceps. So she came out fine. She came out with 2 pushes once we were set up, and she's very, very healthy. All of her health checks have been really good, so that's not an issue. So just sticking with the postpartum stuff, but just to give the background for where I was body-wise. So because I had a spinal, I had to have a catheter put into me. So between having the bottom part of my body numb and having the catheter in me, I had to stay, they kept me in bed for 12 hours from when, so she was born at 5:16, and they told me that in the evening, and they told me that they wouldn't come to take the catheter out and let me walk until 6 o'clock the next morning. So probably about 13 hours actually from when they administered the spinal. So during that time, actually, it was only, I think, maybe an hour and a half after I had her that I could start kind of like just very gently moving my legs. Like I couldn't actually wiggle my toes, I think, at that point, but I remember I could kind of like really sloppily jerk my knees up. And then maybe another hour after that, I could very just jerkily lift my entire leg, wiggle my toes. And then it's probably quite a few, there's quite a few hours after that I really was like, oh, they could take my catheter out because I could walk, because I felt like I could move my legs no problem in the bed. And I think I actually requested that they let me walk a couple times throughout the night, and they kept going, oh honey, you're not ready yet. You have to wait till 6 o'clock. Because I guess they like to wait at least 12 hours. So, I thought that was just an overreaction, but I will say that when they came and they took the catheter out and they let me get up to walk, while I had no problems actually walking, it was a bit of a shaky kind of an experience where it was like I could walk on my own unassisted, but I definitely kind of felt a bit off. So they probably were right, 6 hours earlier when I was asking for them to take the catheter out so I could walk. They were probably right that at that point in time I wouldn't have actually been able to walk, but that's in hindsight. So that might be your experience if you had to have a spinal as well. I don't know, a spinal is very similar to an epidural, but I don't know how it compares to an epidural as far as how long it takes to get your bodily sensations back to move on your own. And obviously everybody's different with how they respond to these medications. So my experience of being able to walk after the 13 hours might be different than your experience. But that's just kind of how it went for me. Because I had the catheter, sorry, not the catheter, a forceps assisted delivery. I also had an episiotomy. So, you know, one of the issues that I was worried about was obviously going to the toilet, because in your head you have a fear that, you know, stitches will tear, you know, you're afraid to bear down, you know, and actually I haven't had any problems with that at all, thank God. You know, things come out smoothly, so on both ends of the spectrum, so that's really good. Really happy and lucky about that. My stools have actually been nice and soft, so I haven't even really had to push. They just kind of come out if I just wait for them. And I think if I had to push, I probably would have held it in and let myself become constipated. But I think I actually, well, I had my own wee within, well, right after they took the catheter out, and I went to the toilet the first time I had a wee, but it was very small because obviously the catheter was emptying out for me. But then I think it was only like an hour later, like I filled up an entire container, because they make they want to measure out and look at your wee after you know, they want to see like that you're okay and that everything's functioning properly, basically. So I was able to fill up like this good size tub that they gave us to go in. Well, they gave me. And I think that's because you have a lot of fluids coming out of your body at that time. Like I was staying hydrated overnight, but on top of that, you do have like a lot of fluids that your body's draining out. So you're going to use the toilet a lot more often than you normally would, you know, just because your body's releasing all the extra fluids that it had created during your pregnancy. So there's that. Yeah, so you don't always have to be, because like one of the things that I was really afraid of using the toilet, because that's one of the things a lot of people talk about, that it's like one of the scariest things that you have to deal with. And I believe that could obviously be very true, but I'll say stay very hydrated, because like I said, my stools were nice and soft, and I think that's because I was drinking water all night long. Mostly in my mind, I wasn't doing it to make my stools soft. I was doing it because I was concerned about making sure that my milk would come in properly, because I was just thinking about the breastfeeding aspect of it. So I was like drinking water. But I think that helped with going to the toilet. So that doesn't have to be a fearful experience, although I understand still that it would be fearful until you've had it. So that's just another topic. So that pretty much takes me through the second day, because the baby was born on Tuesday. So Wednesday, had the catheter taken out in the morning. I was in the hospital pretty much all day. I could have been discharged in the morning as far as how I was physically and how baby was physically. But I was there until I think like 9:30 at night before they discharged us, just because with you know, shift changes and understaffing, it took a long time to get seen by everybody that we needed to be seen by, to have all of my checks looked at and all of the baby's checks looked at for how things were healing up. And, you know, they wanted the pediatrician to just come look at the baby and, you know, take her measurements, look at her eyes, you know, make sure everything looked good. And then for me, it was looking at my stitches, looking at my swelling. I was pushing in the last stage where she was like right at the exit but wouldn't come out for an hour and a half, and that gave me edema right in my girly bits, and that left me very, very sore. I actually think that was more sore than what I experienced with the stitches, but it was bearable sore. I didn't take any pain relief for it. They kept offering it to me, of course, and they thought that I was probably being a bit of a Nazi for not wanting to take it, especially like, I mean, if I've had a spinal, it's probably like, well, why would you be against taking, you know, they wanted me to take paracetamol. But for me, it was like, it's more just, you know, if I can bear the pain, like I'd rather bear the pain than take medication and just let my body heal. So I didn't take any pain medication, but it was very sore, very uncomfortable to sit on, and obviously I was sitting most of the time. They did say that with the edema, the best thing to do would be to keep walking, but unfortunately with the breastfeeding, I spent a lot of time sitting, so that probably took a bit longer to heal up than it should have. And I would say that I've only started to feel better down there within the past couple days, and it's slow. Like, I still feel soreness, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. Like, I would say that the first, like, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, yeah, I would say like the first 4 days after I had her, so going into the 5th day, that I was very sore. And then come like Sunday, Monday, and now it's Tuesday, it started to ease up. So like, you know, Sunday I suddenly felt better than I had Saturday, and then Monday I felt a lot better than I had Sunday, and today I feel way better than I had the day before. And like now I can actually kind of like move around more freely because I don't have, because it's not as sore, I don't have like a lot of fears about like bending over or picking things up, because when you have like a lot of soreness down there and you know that there's like tears and stitches, every movement that you make, you're very careful because you don't want to make anything worse than what it already is. So there's that. But yeah, now I feel fine. Like, I still move slower than I normally would, like getting up and everything takes me a little bit longer than, like, normally I would just get up and not even think about it, but now when I get up, I like am very conscious of being slow and steady and careful. But I think it's all in my head. Like, I could just get up quickly, but it's like a mental block that I've been working to get over, that everything is fine down there, nothing is gonna tear, you know, just keep moving. So that's something else. And another thing I want to talk about is the baby blues. It hit me really, really hard on, I'd say, day 3, 4, and 5, which would have been Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I had her on a Tuesday. So yeah, days 3, 4, and 5, I had crazy hormones, because obviously you've just had a baby, now your body's fluctuating its hormones again, and it could, I don't think, you know, it doesn't necessarily affect everybody, but it definitely hit me really hard. I definitely had a lot of moments where I felt extremely guilty, because, you know, baby was on my breast all the time, and even though I was, you know, willing to let her stay there if she wanted to be there, like, in my mind, I would feel like resentful almost, like, oh, I wish you would just be done. Like, I wish you would be done with her feed. Like, how much more of this can I take? And like, obviously at the same time, you're also dealing with soreness, like nipple soreness. She actually has like a really good latch. I'm pretty lucky with that, but it's still like a completely new sensation for me. I've never, you know, I've never breastfed before, and I'm getting used to it. So I had soreness initially. I still kind of have soreness sometimes, but it's, you know, it's been easing up as time goes on. So it's definitely like, now I'm like used to it and it's bearable. It's not a big deal. But in the beginning it was really like sore and not fun to deal with. But yeah, so with the baby blues, it was just, you know, you get this feeling of like, oh, I'm not good for anything. Like, all I do is sit here and I'm just breastfeeding all the time. You know, I felt like, you know, that was all I was doing. Like, I've just become a cow. Which I know that's not true now. Like, it's literally like, that was just from the hormones. And I had lots of moments where I just, well, not lots. I think I had like 3 or 4 spells of like bawling, crying, because, you know, my husband would say like one little thing that wasn't even like a horrible thing, but like it would just be something that I could like take incorrectly and just start bawling, like crying, or you know, just uncontrollable sobbing, just because, you know, I'm holding in all of this resentment or emotions and just dealing with the newness. And, you know, that was just, you know, that's the baby blues. It's not the same as having postpartum depression. You know, that's something that would come along later on. So I'm not saying that I'm in the clear for that, but I'm not expecting to deal with that, because honestly, I feel really good right now. And I will say, like, the baby blues cleared up. So like, I would say Thursday, Friday, Saturday, days 3, 4, and 5 were the worst for me. But then, you know, it's gotten better. And like last night, baby had a very fussy night again, where she just did not want to be put down. She wanted to be held all night. Well, and because we didn't realize that at first, we kept, you know, I was feeding her, and then I'd put her down, and she would start fussing right away. So I'd have to feed her. Well, we'd check her diaper would be fine, feed her again, put her down. She'd start fussing again. But so, you know, we went through this for, oh my God, like, I don't know, like 3-4 hours, you know, and I just wanted to go to sleep. But, and this is the thing, this is the exact place that I would have been in previous days. I would have been bawling at that point, like really crying hard. But last night, it was like, it was frustrating because I wanted to go to sleep, but mentally I was still like, okay, you know what, my baby just wants to be held, she just wants to be cuddled. Once I realized that, you know, I just cuddled. I let her, you know, I let her stay on me, and that was just how it went for the night. Like, that's, you know, that's where she wanted to be, so that's where I let her be, like, next to me. And that's, you know, I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think you can spoil an infant, or a newborn. Yeah, I don't think you can spoil anybody with love, as far as I'm concerned. I don't even care if it's a child or an adult. Like, when it comes to love, you can't spoil someone with love. Like, there's no reason to hold back on your emotions. That's probably, you know, one of the problems we have in this world, that people sometimes use their emotions and feelings to, like, control others instead of just loving freely. So if anybody thinks that me cuddling my baby all night long is going to spoil her, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to spoil my child in other ways, but yeah, you know what? I fully intend to spoil her with love, if that's what people want to interpret it as. That's just my saying, like, my take on it. Yeah. So the baby blues, that's over for me, thank goodness, because, like, it's really a horrible feeling when you feel like, you know, you're not able to cope with what you're dealing with. And I knew it was the baby blues. And, you know, when they discharged me from hospital, the midwife had said, you know, expect in the next couple days your hormones are going to fluctuate and you might start feeling really sad. So that was nice. And then, here you have midwife visits. So I had a midwife come to my house. I was discharged on Wednesday. A midwife came to my house on Thursday. A midwife came to my house on Friday. A midwife came to my house on Sunday. And a midwife came to my house yesterday on Monday. And I don't have a midwife coming today. I have a midwife coming tomorrow, and I have a midwife coming on Friday. And then from there, they switched the midwife over to the health visitor, who comes, and it's kind of like, the health visitor is kind of like a cross between your pediatrician and your midwife. So, like, they come and they, like, do some checks that a pediatrician would traditionally do, but it's things that doesn't necessarily have to be done by a pediatrician. So she'll come over and she'll take over for the midwives and just start, basically, because I wouldn't need care anymore, just the baby needs, you know, guidance and care and making sure that everything's developing properly. That's off topic though. So anyway, I've had the midwives coming to my house, and, you know, they're able to keep me in the loop as far as, like, okay, this is normal, this is normal, this is normal. You know, it's not like a red flag for anything. So the sadness that I felt was like, it's like, even though I was sad feeling, it didn't actually concern me or worry me, because I knew exactly why I was feeling that way. But knowing why you feel that way doesn't get rid of the feeling. So that's something. And another thing I wanted to bring up was, I wish I had been told beforehand. Unfortunately, it was told to me afterwards when I brought it up to the midwife, was that somewhere around 36 hours is generally when your milk will come in. And before that point, your baby will have a very, very, very fussy night, where suddenly, you know, you come home with baby, and it kind of seems to be in this pattern of eating and sleeping and eating and sleeping. And then suddenly, baby doesn't want to sleep. It just wants to feed and cry and feed and cry and feed and cry, and nothing that you do can make it stop crying. It's just fussing, and you feel like you were doing everything wrong. And when you combine that with the baby blues, you just want to have a breakdown. When you combine that with the fact that you haven't had any sleep probably, I certainly hadn't had sleep. I hadn't had sleep. My baby decided to try this. This happened for me on Thursday night, and I hadn't had any sleep since Sunday night because I went into labor on Monday morning, and from then on I hadn't had any sleep because then I had the baby on Tuesday, had the baby with me Tuesday night, didn't sleep because I was just staring at her all night. And then, you know, the first night home with baby, didn't sleep just because not used to waking up and feeding, waking up and feeding. And Thursday night, got 0 sleep because she literally would not stop asking for the breast. And at the time, I felt like, you know, do my boobs not work? Like, are they not even giving her any, like, I was thinking colostrum at the time because I knew I was still doing colostrum. I was thinking, like, you know, have they stopped producing? Like, is she not getting anything? But I knew that wasn't correct either because she kept making poopy diapers, and I was like, well, she must be getting something if she's still pooping. But it was just, it gets really confusing because you're just like, you're at your wit's end because it actually started Thursday afternoon and it went into Friday early morning, and then it kind of just stopped. And of course, when my midwife came on Friday, by the time she came, baby was a perfect angel. And I brought up that we'd had a really hard night, and that, you know, the baby was fussing all night, and she was like, oh, what time was baby born? And I told her, and she's like, does the math, and she's like, oh, okay, yeah, so baby's going to be 36 hours 36 hours old this evening. She's like, that makes sense. Your baby was trying to help bring your milk in. So there is a reason that the baby was constantly asking to feed, because they're trying to stimulate your body to bring your milk in. I wish I had known that beforehand. So I will tell you that for you, somewhere around that 36-hour mark, it might be at 24 hours, might be at 48 hours, because our milk all comes in at different times. You were going to have the worst night that you've experienced yet, probably. Obviously, every baby's different, but it will probably be the worst night that you've experienced to date with your baby. And combined with the baby blues, like fluctuating hormones, combined with the lack of sleep that you're sure to have at this point, like, you are going to feel horrible. So I'm putting it out there that it's normal for the baby to do that. Your boobs are doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's nothing wrong with your body. You don't need to run out and buy formula to feed your baby. It's not starving. It's just doing what it's meant to be doing to bring in your milk. So I'm glad that I did actually feed her as much as possible. I did have, there was about maybe an hour or so, I have no idea how long it was, but there was a period of time that my husband took the baby from me to try to give me some relief, and he tried to console her, but she, like, literally, like, that whole time she was pretty much just crying. So, you know, he ended up bringing her back, and we just put her back on my breast because I was like, you know, if she's asking for it, then what else can I do but give it to her? And at that point, my nipples were so sore. They were absolutely, like, just burning soreness. And it wasn't because her latch was poor. Her latch was fine. It was just that they'd been overworked, constantly, consistently sucked on. You know, it's just, they were just sore, painful, and, you know, I just felt like my body wasn't working at the time. But now, knowing that it was just the baby trying to bring my milk in, it's like my body was working. I wish I knew that. So I'm bringing this up because I am hoping that if you're watching this before you have your baby, you'll know this and that you won't have to freak out. And, you know, the midwife had said, like, oh yeah, that's the night that everybody ends up stopping breastfeeding and switching to formula. So that's why I think it's important that people know this, because obviously I didn't go that route because I'm really against formula because of the ingredients, basically, that they put in it. It's not that, I understand that some women, like, that's just what they have to do, and, you know, if you're not producing, like, your options are very limited, but, like, it is very, I've not come across a formula that had nice, clean ingredients, honestly, so that's the only issue I have with that. I'm not saying that to upset anybody that's formula feeding by any means. It's just, for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable putting those ingredients into my child, and, you know, it's not trying to be judgmental, it's just based on what I feel comfortable with. So anyway, my milk did come in on Friday evening, and at that point your boobs feel very tingly, heavy, hot, like they feel warm, very, very uncomfortable. So there's different things you can do to try to relieve the pain. Problem is pretty much the second you stop doing it, the pain comes right back. So I was doing, you know, they say you can do hot and cold compress. I've always like never liked cold compress I don't like cold. So I was doing hot compress. You know, I was getting in the bath and just letting them soak in the bathtub. I've heard cabbage leaves help a lot. Like literally women will stuff their bras with cabbage leaves. I didn't go that route because we didn't have any cabbage leaves in the house, and at that point I didn't want my husband leaving the house because I just needed him by my side for my sanity. Yeah, so that was that, and I think that's pretty much it for my first week postpartum. Like those were all the topics that I wanted to go over. I'll do a quick belly shot, but I will say I wish I had taken photos like right after I'd given birth, because my stomach has consistently gone down, but it looks a lot better now than it did like even like 3 days ago. So, you know, well, my stomach's not flat by any means. I still have like a pouch to it. My uterus is still shrinking down. It's still bigger than it should be. My skin is still a little bit looser than normal. I still look, you know, like pregnant or bloated, like maybe like first trimester pregnant, or just ate too much food baby, gassy, bloated. I still have a bump basically, but it doesn't look that bad. But I will say, like right after, like the day after, like I looked full on pregnant. Like I looked a good 6-7 months pregnant. Like I had a pretty good size bump, and that's just gone down every day, and the weight has steadily come off. Yeah, so I'll show you what it looks like this week. And whew, see how slow it was for me to get up? Like I move very slow right now. So this is 1 week postpartum with my clothes on, and obviously I'm wearing like a loose top because I'm not going to wear anything tight at the moment with my belly. And then this is with the shirt up. So I do still have like a bump that is, you know, pretty much like a first trimester or a ate too much food bump. But that is just the fact that my uterus is so big at the moment. And yeah, but I'm actually quite happy with how it's healing and going down. My skin actually feels pretty good, and it's not as stretched out as I thought it would be, and I do attribute that to staying very, very hydrated throughout the pregnancy. Do I know if that's the actual reason why it's like that? No, like of course I don't, but I do think it has a lot to do with being hydrated before I even got pregnant and staying hydrated throughout. Yeah, so that's it. And I will say I do still have, I'm not sure looking at the screen right now if you can see the stretch marks, but I do still have very, very faint stretch marks, but they're not so noticeable. And I didn't use any stretch mark creams at all throughout my pregnancy. I did like lotion and oil the area, just because, I mean, I was lotioning before I got pregnant. Why would I stop when I get pregnant, you know? And it feels nice to like massage the baby almost. But I wasn't using actually any stretch mark stuff, and I don't think if I did that it would have prevented it, because I don't think that really has anything to do with it, because the stretch marks come from actually more inside the skin, not from the outside. So that's that. That's 1 week postpartum, and I'm not sure what I will do as far as moving forward, just because I don't know if there will be anything to talk about or not. But I wanted to do this one just because I felt like there was stuff to talk about. So that's it. Yeah, we'll see what happens with the next video. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.